it's Elise here at Bowman Library with a whole new middle grade book spotlight. So, we are now onto our next week of summer reading adventures, and our theme for this week is Tales from Time Past. We are taking a look at books that fall into the historical fiction side of the genre areas. So a historical fiction book is one that is set in the past, okay? As long as it's in the past, it's historical. Some of the books we might take a look at are definitely set more in the past than others, but they also all include some sort of real fact elements to them. Now, the characters can be completely made up, or they could be based on real people or inspired by real people, but they all, again, have some factual information in there. So let's take a look at 6 historical fiction titles that we have for you today. Our first one is All the Grays on Green Street. So it is 1981, and Olympia, also known as Ollie, her parents are artists. Her mother is an incredible sculptor, and her father does restoration work. But they are not really there. They're really busy, caught up in their own careers to really notice Ollie. Her father, one night though, just ups and leaves. He takes off in the middle of the night, leaves a note that's just for Ollie. It's this cryptic note, and he takes off to go to France, and Ollie has no idea what exactly is going on. This leads her mother to fall into this deep depression, and she can't just get herself out of bed, and Ollie, she's kind of left up to her own devices. So she decides, along with her best friends, Richard and Alex, that she wants to figure out what really is going on. She wants to see what she can decipher whatever this cryptic note is about, and why her father felt the need just to leave in the middle of the night and take off to a completely another country. Ollie also decides, though, that she doesn't want anyone knowing what's going on with her mother, because it is way harder and more painful than what she thought it would be when it first started. So she's trying to keep her secrets while trying to figure out her other people's secrets. If you like a historical fiction book that is filled with mystery, family, and friendship, as well as a taste of art, then this is the one for you, All the Grays on Green Street. Moonshine by Justin Benton. So it's 1932, and Prohibition was the law of the land, which made any type of alcohol illegal. You couldn't make it, sell it, consume it, but that didn't stop people. And making moonshine was a very, very lucrative business because people would pay a lot for this illegal material. So Cobb lives with his family in rural Tennessee, and he and his father have made illegal moonshine for years, and this is the only way their family has been able to survive. At 13, though, Cobb has never been to school, and when the sheriff gets involved, his dad decides Cobb needs to go to school in order to avoid everyone being arrested for keeping him out of school, plus for their illegal activity. So Cobb at 13 goes to school for the first time. He's trying to fit in, but he's being bullied. He doesn't know how to read or write, and he just really wants to help his dad, especially since this major mobster, Mr. Salvatore, comes down from the north, and he kind of is trying to step onto his father's business. So Cobb steps in the middle of a physical conflict one night, and when he does that, it ends up with his dad becoming severely injured in an accident. And now they need to find a way out of the mess that they are now in. This is a look at a time that's not normally discussed in books. You will find yourself cheering for Cobb and his father, even though what they're doing is illegal. You'll be asking yourself questions like, what would you do if you were in Cobb's situation? Or, well, you know, what are we all willing to do for our families? This is Moonshine. The Button War by Avi. So this is taking place in a small Polish village in 1914 during World War I. We meet 12-year-old Patrick, who is our narrator. He is part of a group of boys who meet every night, and they plan mostly harmless adventures and pranks and dares. One night, though, everything changes when the Germans drop a bomb on their schoolhouse and it destroys it. When the leader of their group, Jurek, declares a challenge, he challenges these 12 boys, whoever can steal the shiniest and most intricate military button, so like off their uniform, that kid is going to end up being king. Patrick, though, has no idea what the king would actually be king of, but he knows that this whole thing is not going to end well. This is not going to be good, because what he knows of Jurek and the dangers that Jurek can pose and he's willing to put people into, and the fact that he is willing to win at all costs, Patrick knows that this is not going to go well. And he's kind of correct, because the game does turn deadly as it progresses. If you are looking for a complex and dark look at how events can change people, then this psychological mystery and thriller is one that you will not be able to put down. It is completely different than anything Avi has really ever done before. So if you've read Avi stuff before, you're getting something kind of completely different from what his norm is. This is the Button War. Out of left field. So in 1957, girls are not allowed to play Little League Baseball, no matter how good they are. And that is the situation that Katie finds herself in. She tries out for Little League, dressed up as a boy, and she actually makes the team. But when it's found out that she's a girl, she gets kicked off. She decides that she's going to prove to everyone that girls can and should be able to play baseball, leading her down this path of exploration and discovering various leagues during and before and even after World War II that women were allowed to play in. For a while, there was times that the only professional sports being played in the country were by women. Katie, using her new knowledge, then goes to make her case that girls should be allowed to play just as much as boys. If you want to read about sports and history and everyone having equal rights and an equal chance to play, make sure to pick up this baseball-filled story inspired by true events, Out of Left Field. Allies by Alan Gratz. So it is June 6, 1944, a day which will become known in history as D-Day. This would be the largest and most secretive war operation the Allies had ever planned. They decide they're going to invade Nazi-occupied France via beach, which is something that they know the Nazis are not expecting. The story of that day is told through different points of view, though, in this story, each bringing their own unique perspective, from a Canadian paratrooper to a war correspondent and the daughter of a French resistance member. If you love reading about World War II, then this is a must-read for you. And I'm going to also say this is by Alan Gratz. He has written a ton of other historical fiction works. They are all amazing. So even if this maybe doesn't sound interesting to you, please make sure to check out other things Alan Gratz has written, because they are just incredible. This is Allies. And our last one is A Ceiling Made of Eggshells by Gail Carson Levine, who again is another amazing author. So our story starts when Loma is 7 years old and she is living in Spain in the late 1400s. Loma's family is Jewish and her grandfather is a powerful, wealthy leader in the community. But being Jewish is dangerous at this time because there is a plague that's spreading throughout all of Europe, including Spain, that's making people incredibly sick and people are dying from it. And people aren't sure what's causing it, so they decide they're going to blame the Jews for it, even though Jewish people are getting sick and dying from it as well. So some Jewish people were even arrested and put on trial and put into prison because of this, and they were forced to leave the country in some cases. This would become what's called the Spanish Inquisition. So when all this is going on, Loma ends up having to travel across the country with her grandfather. And she gets to see firsthand how daily life is in the country and how what everyone is facing and how her grandfather is trying his best to keep everyone safe from harm. But Loma also wants to start living her own life as well, which becomes increasingly difficult as her grandfather's expectations keep increasing. This book provides a rare look at a time in history that is usually not discussed or explored in this book. It is done incredibly. Highly recommend it. This is A Ceiling Made of Eggshells. So these are just 6 of the books that we have here at the library that are set in the past. They're historical fiction. So we encourage you to come on down, either check out one of these, or we have a ton of other historical fiction books that all take place in different times throughout history, even times we did not discuss about today. So on down and we can help you find whatever that perfect time period is you're looking for. I hope you have a great week, and I hope you tune back next week when we have a whole new middle grade book spotlight.